There's been a lot of talk recently about the layoffs at Microsoft. Um, right after they spent a lot of money acquiring Activision, Blizzard King, there was like a series of layoffs recently. They got rid of Tango Gameworks, um, and they were responsible for Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within. And both of those games were actually really good. Often, when when a game studio closes and that the game wasn't that great anyway, people aren't exactly sympathetic. They also closed Arcane Austin, which was responsible for Redfall, which was just an objective failure, right? Like the game should have never sold in the state it was in. Um, but they're also responsible for prey. So, it's hard to say how much of Redfall State you know, was directly or was the people that worked on its direct fault. So, they they also kind of let Roundhouse Studios get absorbed by ZeniMax Online. They do Elder Scrolls Online and probably some other games. So, the thing is, Microsoft has sank $70 billion into studio acquisitions, trying to get the Xbox Game Pass off the ground. They are really investing in the future with this, and and you know, as as terrible as it is to have so many people lose their job, unfortunately, this is kind of like the industry standard. I mean, I was looking just to see how many other studios, like both big and small, because this kind of thing isn't unique to big studios. It's actually really common in indie studios as well. Um, and only this year, as in um, like from January until it's yeah, it was like, is it still May? It's May now, right? I'm sorry. Um there has been over 8,000 layoffs within the entire game industry, and not just within the game industry, um also like with like adjacent tech companies. Unity had the debacle not too long ago where they were going to change their pricing scheme, and they did a restructuring right after that where they fired or laid off 25% of their workforce. It ended up being 1,800 people, which is just impossible to fathom. And Twitch let go of 35% of their workforce, 500 people this year, and Discord let go of 17% of their workforce, which was like 170 people. So looking at game studios that is closed, because I do want to get into more specifics, but I really want to kind of illustrate how widespread of a thing this is. So NetSpeak Games let go of 25 people. Archaic Unknown does VR. Let go of some people. Pull to Win let go of 45. Um, Boston Studios, 19 people. That was mostly QA. Thunderful, 100 people, 20% of their workforce. Playtika let go of 300 people, which was about 20 or 10% of their uh, force. Uh, Skip ahead. I'm trying to illustrate a point. I may apologize. So, Pixelberry Studios, 120 people. Lost Boys Interactive, 125, which was a sizable portion of their workforce. Uh, Gearbox Studios, um, let Pixelberry was a Gearbox Studios subsidiary. And when they sold Borderlands, they let go of a lot of people. Fun Selector let go of 3 people. They were a pretty small studio, so that's still a big chunk. Wimo Games let go of 35 people when it was shut down. Behavior Interactive let go of 45 people. 31st Union let go of 10. CI Games, oh sorry, U Games let go of 10% of their workforce, which was 15 to 20 people, just again sizable for a small company. Calm to Us let go of 20 people. Metaverse World 70. Uh, Intrieve Soft, which is a subsidiary of NCSoft, let go of 70 people. Riot Games, a huge one this year, let go of 530 people, which was 11% of its workforce when they were, they kind of changed directions on their MMO. Now, let's see. One Player Mission, another small studio, 15 people. Um, People Can Fly, let go of 30 people. Black Forest Games got rid of 50% of their workforce, just like half. Recon Games let go of 50%, 56% of their workforce, which was 60 people. Little Red Dog Games let go of 27 when the studio closed. 3 let go of 25 people. Eidos Montreal, 97. Chief Rebel, 21 people. Sega of America, 61 people. Nimble Giant Entertainment, 30 people. Artificer, 28 people, which was 50% of their workforce. Airship Syndicate, 12 people. Crop Circle Games, 50 people. Threshold Games, 11 people. 91 Act, 60 people. Virtual Concepts Austin, let go of 9 people. Hidden Path Entertainment, let go of 44. Daybreak Games, the number is unknown, but it was again a sizable portion. Scopely, 15 people. ZA UM, 24. Builder Rocket Boy, refocused. So they let go of a sizable portion, but the number's unknown. Disruptive Games, let go of some people. Gameloft, let go of 38. EA laid off most of Codemasters, and Kyokin Interactive, which was like a mobile division. Supermassive Games, 90 people. Die Glute Fabric, 10 people. Sony Interactive Entertainment, 900 people. Deck 9 Games, 30 people. EA again, another 670 people. Wildlife Studios, 130 people. 505 Games closed and got rid of roughly 30% of their workforce when they did so. Frog Song Studios, another small one, 14 people. Radical Forge lost 6. Barbarossa Games, 4. Toys Games, 8. Spearhead Games, 31. Aggnut Games, 15. Deviation Games, 50. Something Wicked Games, 40. Happy Volcano, 8. Velican Studios, 46. Crop Circle Games, and somewhere in the ballpark of 50 plus. Smilegate Barcelona, 45. And Certain Affinity, 25. And Sega, yet again, 240. So, like, I remember kind of recently, there was a big layoff, and there was kind of some pushback towards people not speaking on it. And, it's not up to, I don't feel like it's up to people to speak on it or not, because it's very much an industry-wide problem. And, you know, no one wants to see a bunch of people lose their job. But and I've touched on this really recently when I was talking about, like, have games gotten too big? Like, is the tech industry sustainable at like its current size? Like, like Twitter let go of a large X let go of a large portion of their workforce. And it's hard to know internally what's going on, but like externally, the site seems to be running in a similar way. Maybe like it's worse in some ways, and in like it's just not noticeable to somebody like me. It's really hard to know. But yeah, I think I was looking at this from the wrong perspective because finding out that so many indie studios are losing their people too, I wonder, like, has the entire industry gotten too big? Like, are there like too many separate overlapping projects kind of butting up against each other and all vying for the same market? Like, um, you know, um, how many games does like the typical consumer buy in a period of time? And like, you know, like there's obviously like a problem with sustainability, right? Alan Wake 2 was like a big commercial success. It won awards. It's, critically acclaimed. And from what I understand, they're like millions in the red still. Like their budget really surpassed what they've made on it, you know? Um, and like uh there was this urban legend in the 80s where there was a there was an ET console, and at the time they printed off more copies of the game than there were units to play it on in circulation. And the urban legend goes that they took all of the unsold copies of the ET game and buried them in this big concrete like encasement in the desert, right? And a couple of years ago, somebody had found out about it and went and looked, and they actually found like just the huge, huge cache of unused console games, like specifically that one ET game. So, that ended up being true. Um, from what I understand, Funko Pops, to keep their supply rare, if you could say that. I mean, like, I don't know, people that collect those tend to have a lot of them. They put them directly into a landfill instead of donating them because they don't want to flood the market with like a cheaper alternative to their own product, which is I don't understand how businesses work, but I do understand you can't cannibalize your own market like that, but it's still, I don't know. It just makes me wonder about the scope of everything. Like if you think about it, everybody has limited amounts of time, and I wonder if in recent years, when people temporarily had more free time, if some of the markets that saw an increase in the amount of customers, like a short-term flood, if you know if they unreasonably predicted the growth to continue that way when it was like, a momentary blip. Like, I wonder, is that part of it? It's really hard to know. I I feel really bad for like obviously all the people that lost their jobs. But you know, it just makes me wonder how sustainable like any of it is. Like I'm sure like a lot of entertainment industries are being hit in a similar way. I mean, I know me personally, like I don't go to movies anymore. Like I used to go all the time, like every couple of weeks. But I got to where I don't enjoy going. And there's all the streaming services. But after a while there started being so many of them that like and I used to just cycle through them. I would think about which one I wanted to watch a couple of things from and subscribe to that one for like, a month or so and until I watched everything. And then I would switch to another whenever I had seen what I wanted to see. And it got a little exhausting trying to keep up track and trying to plan, sometimes like months in ahead what I was going to watch. But I mean, I didn't want to just, sit with a bunch of them idling, because, I'm not, I, like everybody else, like only have so many hours in the day, and they can't all go to entertainment. And I mean, me personally, I spend a lot of my time playing games, or so everything else comes like comes with like a really limited amount of time I'm willing to give it. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's so many video streaming services. There's so much live entertainment. There's Twitch and YouTube. There's there's traditional movies. There's video games, there's books. There's a lot of different markets that are all vying for a lot of the same audience, Because it's not like those people it's not like the bigger games market came from nowhere, right? Like people had to have had another hobby, Like it makes me wonder, if more people are playing, let's say, mobile games, then are less people watching TV, right? Um, so yeah, I I understand a very, the very good conversation, the one that I'm not currently having, is about, like industry practices, right? Games industry, like the way that it's a very common practice to hire a lot of people at the end of a game development cycle called like crunch. So they will have people come in and work really long hours for a really short amount of time. Sometimes the last year, sometimes just the last couple of months. And they treat people as like kind of disposable like workhorses. They just throw bodies at a problem. Um, and a lot of studios have gotten some pushback for doing this. Um, but it's just way too common for the really, really big companies to just go in and just one day, you know, just gut a department. It's like, all right, Blizzard decided that they needed less quality assurance people, and they just was it quality assurance or customer service? This was like 2 years ago, I think. But they just went in and they fired like 900 people, like just an unreasonable number of people at once. And you know, I understand they're a business and they need to make a profit. They need to keep running. I mean, nobody will have a job if they can't do what they need to do. But it just, I mean, how did they grow to the point that they had 900 people they could let go? Like, it just doesn't feel like that was a sustainable growth rate to begin with, you know? Like, um, I remember recently, like Bethesda was talking about how they acquired a studio of like 100 people. And it's like, well, good. Hopefully that means, that maybe they can work on Elder Scrolls 6 instead of whoever worked on Starfield, right? I mean, that's a joke. Um, but um, but no, I mean, 100 more people is great if they will still have a job in 2 years, But I can't imagine, you know, I get disappointed when games come out and they're bad, but when you think about like how hard how hard people work on it, how stressed out they are, like the long crazy hours. I remember Mass Effect Andromeda specifically. Like there were some others. Cyberpunk when it was first released, right? Um, so these games they have this big push to get them out the door, right? And people are overworked. And then a lot of times, when they are released, they're still released in a completely unfinished state. And then the same people have to immediately get to work crunching like the stability patches, like some of these games like Fallout 76 had an enormous day one patch. I think it was like 100 gigabytes or something. Like which means that, even when they had it ready to go, there was still so much work to be done. I mean that's a, I don't know. I guess I wish there was some I don't really have a good way of saying this. I wish that there was a more sustainable way to. I mean, I'm only going to talk about games. I don't know how movies are produced. I would imagine movies in their entirety are produced on a crunch schedule, right? Because they'll film for several months, but then they'll film for hours and hours every day, right? So I assume that that's an industry where just that sort of like drought and rain and drought kind of schedule is the norm, where people will work like 14-hour days for 3 months, and then they might have several months off. In the games industry, when somebody takes time off after a big crunch, it's usually called stress leave, right? Where they have to take time off because of just how overwhelming like working like that is on a person. And it's a very common practice. Like there are absolutely some game companies that do get it right. And it's important to support those. But, at the same time, it's not really our jobs as consumers to know about this kind of stuff, right? Like, I've seen a lot of conversation that, that it's somehow, the game customers' fault for not buying the games, like that the shit studio shut down. But I mean, I don't know. We're just people living our lives and just trying to have some entertainment. I mean, like, it's a lot to put on the shoulders of just somebody who wants to just, play a game on the couch at the end of the day to say like, hey, buy two this month or somebody won't, won't be able to feed their family. Like that's a lot of pressure for somebody to put on somebody just trying to enjoy entertainment. So, while I do think that is a completely valid point, obviously, that the games have to sell to be able to pay the people that worked on them. I still I don't think very much of this rest at the fault of the consumer, because if a game's good, people will play it. Sure, there's like a little bit of problem with like visibility, but I mean, again, like that's the market's fault, not really the individual customers. I mean, um, if you go on Steam, right, there's just so many games being released at once that there's pages and pages of them. And like, even if you're actively seeking information, because like the average person doesn't sit around checking daily to see if a game from their favorite franchise is coming out. Like, they'll hear word of mouth or they'll watch an ad, or sometimes like a lot of time will go by and people are like, hey, have you played the new whatever? And it's like, oh no, I'll pick it up, right? you know, so you can't really blame people for not buying them. There's a lot of games to buy. A lot of people at this point have like kind of sit it out when new stuff comes out. There are people, of course, that are really hyped for new releases, and there'll always be that. But I mean, there's a lot of people that feel like their games backlog is so huge that they're really more scrutinizing about how many new games they buy at this point, because there's just a limited time like people have to spend on them. It's similar to what I was saying with like the MMO market, how there's just Not as much these days. Some of them are starting to shut down, but there was a rush where there were so many different ones that all launched around the same time, and there was a fairly limited player base, a fairly limited just market of people that were going to play at the time, and the games would come out, but there would be a big rush of people coming from other games to check it out, and within months, the population would shrink down to closer to what the game could actually expect. And a similar thing happens with single player games. There's a game will come out, there'll be a big rush of people playing it, and then people will finish it, or some other big game will come out, and the people that play it will kind of fall off. And there are definitely exceptions to this. Like there's some games that, like for me at least, there's a bunch of new games coming out, and I'm still playing ones from like, uh, 2011 or 2003, right? Like, I, I, I don't know. It has to be really special for me to buy a new release game, so I'm definitely part of the problem. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different facets to it, and a lot of the conversation that I've seen around it has been taking it on from like one perspective or another. Like, you know, the games industry is, from the perspective that the big game companies, like the big publishers, are just these like, faceless monsters of corporate entities that will just crush the dreams of its employees on a whim to make sure that their, investors stay happy, right? And that, that may be fair to some extent, and that could be part of it, sure, but it just doesn't feel like it's like the whole picture. And then, some people have pointed out that this isn't just big studios, that indie studios, a lot of them are, they're supported by dreams and a thread and a Kickstarter. And with especially, there was like the chip shortage that happened unexpectedly a few years ago, and inflation, and that upped the cost of like just basic technology. Like there are indie studios that could have had a lower budget, just 3 4 years ago, that have a lot to consider. On the other side of the coin, there are game engines like specifically Unreal 5 that are making it easier to do much more impressive stuff graphically for people um, that previously couldn't. Just the scope of it, the size of a team you would need to be able to do something that you can do fairly easily. Um, that's a little bit promising for smaller studios being able to compete with the big ones if they want to go for like the super realistic graphics or whatever. But I really think what I took from most of it is like the lack of sustainability. People only have so much time. People only have so much money. There's a lot competing for people's attention. There's a lot of other factors, there's an increase in real estate costs, there's like inflation, there's like the changing of the whims of the market. There was a while where like game studios were unwilling to take many risks, so you would have so many similar games coming out around the same time, and only a limited amount, even if it was a big audience, it's still a limited audience that was interested in them at all. Dark Souls came out and changed the game, and then we kept getting a lot of Souls likes. And it's great for people that want to play Souls likes, but um, there's a set group of people that are going to do that. And maybe, they can get the numbers and know exactly how many people could potentially buy the game, um, and bet on that. But there was like the big MMO boom. There was the battle royale boom, where every game was going to be a battle royale. And one, I mean, PUBG really kind of set that off, but Fortnite took it to like a whole other level. And now, there's not as much interest in battle royale. So like Fortnite's like, okay, we'll adapt. It seems that more people are interested in Minecraft than battle royales. So Fortnite has the Lego kind of building co-op thing going now, and just sort of adjusted for the sake of the market. Um, you know, they're so they have a game mode that isn't even what originally made it popular now to compete. But I mean, they were a big enough studio to be able to pivot like that. Whereas, other games can be in development 5, 6 years, and a lot of manpower and time is sunk into an idea that by the time it actually makes it to market, most people are sick of seeing it. And it's really hard to keep up with that, like how many people are looking for the next ARPG now? How many people want to try out a new battle royale? How many people are willing to invest in a new MMO? How many people um, want to play a battle royale? Did I already say that? I'm sorry. Um, so I don't know. I don't really have my thoughts gathered on this. I'm still sort of um thinking about it. I definitely I don't have any solutions to offer. I just feel like a lot of the conversations were really only about one single aspect of it, and I really think there's a lot more to it. I don't think it's purely the publisher's fault, saying like, make us a profit or we'll shut you down. Like I don't think it's purely game studios being run poorly. Because I personally thought that was the problem when I was saying like, these big unwieldy teams of studios are part of the problem. But no, if this is hitting people at like an indie level, if like a studio has 100 people and they have to let go of 10, then like that's not really a management problem. That's there's more to it than that. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic to discuss, and I'll probably revisit it. But I don't know. What do you think about it?